I am Gimba Umar. This is State of the Nation. We begin with the biggest developing story in the nation, one that is sure to attract so much comments in the coming days. The president has signed the 2016 budget into law. He did it in the presence of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and the Chairman of the National Assembly Appropriation Committees, who arrived the presidency for the signing ceremony. The event comes after the National Assembly submitted a clean copy of the budget to the president. The president had withheld assent after some alterations were noticed in the document. The government announced yesterday it had mopped up about 34 strategic priority programs and projects it intends to achieve with the 2016 budget. And these include a capital spend minimum of 30% annually, an appropriate and predictable exchange regime by the end of 2016, increased low-interest lending rates of 9%, self-sufficiency in tomato paste in 2016 and rice production by 2018. It also plans to increase local production of maize, soybeans, poultry and livestock, and to stop imports. Let's get a better feel of this. The Chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business, Emmanuel Orker-Jev, joins me. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us on State of the Nation. At this time, he joins us from our Abuja studio. It really has been long coming, and finally the president has signed a controversial budget. He calls it the budget of change. What was your first thoughts when this budget was signed, and what came to your mind?
Well, relief is the word. Nobody is happy that it took this long to have the budget signed into law. But I think the lessons will be learned from what has happened. When the Minister of Information came to the National Assembly last Tuesday for the sectoral debates that we are doing, my humble piece of advice to him, which I will repeat here and which other Nigerians have been giving, is that going forward, I think the National Assembly should be involved in the budget preparation process, so that when it comes to the floor, it becomes like a baby of the National Assembly. So there won't be much time wasting on approving the budget, because come to think of it, the National Assembly has a role to play in the budget process. So when you prepare, take months or weeks and prepare it on the executive side, and you bring it to the National Assembly, and you expect National Assembly to rubber stamp it, it doesn't work that way. So I think that is the big lesson that we have to learn from this. And I think it's a big relief. Back to your question, it's a big relief. I felt a sense of relief. Now we can begin to look at what the president has in store for us, because he promised change, and we all have to support him to carry out that into effect.
Does this, in effect, though, rest the perceived conflict of interest between the legislators, that's your humble self, and the presidency? You do remember it took the Senate president to get to Mr. President at the Villa, and after a short meeting which lasted about 30 minutes, he came out to say that the budget will be signed within days. Does this put to rest a perceived conflict between the two arms of government?
Yeah, hopefully. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying, that where we've had our disagreements, each arm of government has its own allocated powers in the Constitution. So, and they try to guard it jealously. The presidency will try to guard its allocated powers jealously. The National Assembly will do same. But there has to be a meeting of ways along the ways for the interest of Nigeria. Now, we've had this disagreement. We are hoping lessons will be learned from the disagreement that we've had, so that next time we don't have to go through it again. So for me, the important thing is to take the lessons home, so that tomorrow we don't have to repeat them again.
So should Nigerians be really excited about this latest development, the budget being signed by Mr. President, though delayed, but this has indeed affected businesses to plan?
Not two ways about it. Everybody, even the bread seller on the street, was talking about budget signing. Oh, we are suffering because the budget has not been signed. Everybody was expecting it. So it comes as a big relief to not just those in government, but every Nigerian, because our lives, as it were, all depends on the budget. So I think it's a big relief that it was finally signed into law.
But what though is your greatest concern on this 2016 budget, the budget of change, do you see areas you suppose with benchmark oil to work on at $38 per barrel? The Nigerian government has set that. Do you suppose there's any areas of concern that could arise from this benchmark of crude oil at $38 per barrel?
Well, the benchmark is a reflection of the reality on the ground. You couldn't put any other benchmark when and ignore the reality that you have on the ground. So we have to, you know, the president is the first to realize, and he has reflected that in the budget, that we can no longer do business as we used to do. For instance, the last year's budget was 53. Now you can't put 53 when the price of oil has come down. You know, it's unfortunate, but the president haven't realized that you know, the oil prices are no longer as they used to be. It's taking Nigeria on a diversification of the economy, and that is where we are heading. That's why the House, the National Assembly, particularly the House, has been in this week going, you know, taking a look at the sectoral debates, asking the ministers to come and brief us on how the president intends to carry out the diversification of the economy, because it's critically important that we continue to look in other directions in agriculture, in the mineral resources and all of that, so that tomorrow will be better.
Let us get a summary of the budget. In total, it was 606 trillion naira, based on a crude oil benchmark price of $38 a barrel, and production estimate of 2.2 million barrels per day for 2016. GDP growth rate projected, if we could just get those slides coming through right now. GDP growth rate projected at 4.37%, 1.51 trillion naira. Capital expenditure, 2.6 trillion naira. And 433.4 billion naira to work, power and housing, and 202.0 billion naira for transport, 294.5 billion naira to defense, and 300 billion naira special intervention programs. Emmanuel, do you suppose that this standard set by the budget and the above sectors is enough to, you know, finance this budget under the current situation? Of course, you know, the naira against the dollar is nosediving seriously at this point, and you're having the crude oil prices that are not in favor of this budget.
Well, it's unfortunate we're starting late, but I believe a lot will be. You see, it's a matter of commitment. The president has showed enough commitment, if you ask me. We had situations in the past when oil was selling at over 130, and we had nothing to show on the ground. I believe the president is committed, and I believe working with discipline, we'll have something on the ground at the end of the day. I think that is very important.
How can this budget service a 2.2 trillion naira deficit?
Excuse me?
Yes, my question to you, it's a large deficit that we have on this budget at about 2.2 trillion naira, and the government intends to finance the deficit through borrowing. How do you suppose this will pan out?
We are not expecting, we are not, the budget is going to be financed, the deficit is going to be financed, like you said, through borrowing. We don't expect that it will continue this way forever. We're expecting that things will get a little bit better. Remember, at the point, the prices of oil even went below, you know, 30, I believe. And now they are going up to about 40 again. So I don't believe that things will continue this way. And if at the price of $38 per barrel, at the price of $38 per barrel that we put in the budget as the benchmark, and we're selling slightly above, we're going to have something on the sideline again. So, but I believe in time, it's not going to continue this way.